What's up, guys? So I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have heard by now that news dropped last night that Julian Assange is being freed. So it's a little more complicated than that. He has to technically plead guilty, but he'll be able to go home. Basically, time served is going to be considered for all the time he spent in Belmarsh prison and all the time that he spent holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. So he is going to be able to go home. As I'm talking to you right now, I think the process is currently ongoing where he has to go in front of a judge in North Mariana Island, I believe it is, which is, just north of Australia, close to his home. It's like a U.S. territory, but it's not, the United States of America. He didn't want to step foot in the United States of America for understandable reasons. Yeah. So he's basically going there, pleading guilty. The judge will approve it, and then he'll be able to go to Australia, and he will be home. So I certainly never thought that we would see him freed in my lifetime. It got to the point where, he was basically being punished for so long, whether it be being holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy or at Belmarsh prison, that I thought they just gummed up the works and made it so that no matter what, he's going to be behind bars the rest of his life, basically. And we also heard that his health was failing and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But apparently he's going to be able to go home. And just so everybody understands, because there might be some people who are kind of unfamiliar with why they were going after Julian Assange. And the bottom line is, I believe it was in 2009, he released this video that he called Collateral Murder, which was given to him by Chelsea Manning, who of course was a whistleblower. And the Collateral Murder video showed that the U.S. military killed, I believe it was a journalist, with either, I think it was with a drone, and then circled around and did a double tap and killed the first responders of, who were trying to help the journalist that they just killed. And it basically showed how, totally nonchalant and blasé the U.S. military was when prosecuting the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and just, really not caring about who they were targeting, not being specific at all, killing civilians, and then sort of laughing about it as well. That's another thing that the video showed. And of course, the people who committed those crimes spent 0 time behind bars.
That's right.
But Chelsea Manning spent time behind bars until Obama commuted her sentence. And then you had Julian Assange, who spent basically 12 years in captivity, 5 years at Belmarsh and the remainder of it at the Ecuadorian embassy, where he basically wasn't allowed to leave the room. So I think the message they were trying to get across is you do not spill any secrets, no matter how legitimate, no matter how reasonable. You do not spill any secrets about the inner workings of the U.S. empire. And he basically committed that cardinal sin, and that's why they had the book thrown at him. But now, I'm surprised he's going home. I'm happy he's going home, and I'm sure his family is too. You just talked to one of his family members.
Yeah, I got the chance to talk to his brother, Gabe Shipton, who we've interviewed before, met him in person. He's been, a tireless advocate for his brother. And it was just on a personal, human level, it was so great. He's so happy. Julian, in addition to all that he's done for us, exposing the crimes of powerful people, not just here in the U.S., but around the world, he's a father, he's a husband, he's got these 2 little kids at home, he's got a wife. I'm just on a superhuman level. I was so happy to get to talk to Gabe, and of course he's over the moon. He's actually in France right now, talking about the documentary that he produced with he and Julian's dad about their struggle to secure Julian's freedom. So it's great to be able to ask him the question, how does it feel that your brother is finally coming home? The catch and what's unfortunate is that because of the government's position, he had to plead guilty to this one count of, it was conspiracy to retain national security information, something of that nature. And Julian's wife, Stella, has already put out a statement saying they're going to be seeking a pardon for that crime that he was forced effectively to plead guilty to. And they are specifically seeking a pardon because it continues to be a very dangerous precedent set for journalism, which is why the Obama administration, which also hated Julian Assange, they decided they couldn't prosecute him because it would criminalize journalism. The Trump administration, which originally was plotting to assassinate him in the Ecuadorian embassy, they decided to take the more moderate route of indicting and prosecuting him. The Biden administration continuing that prosecution, fighting for his extradition from the UK. Those trials were ongoing, but I think there were a couple things that came together here, and this was something else I got to ask Julian's brother Gabe about. for one thing is just the tireless activism of all kinds of people here and around the globe who would not let Julian just fade into obscurity, who kept that cause alive. His family was really central to that as well. And then there were political and diplomatic issues that were arising for the Biden administration. So politically, the possibility of him, these freedom of the press battles continuing, potentially Julian being extradited here, and then this big trial and the spectacle of that happening right across the river in Alexandria, Virginia, right across the river from DC. I think politically they didn't really want any part of that. And then this was also becoming a major diplomatic issue for them as well, the Australian government. And this became a very unifying issue across the Australian political spectrum. They wanted Julian home. They saw this as an attack on their national sovereignty, and so there were a lot of efforts from Australian lawmakers to secure his freedom and his release as well. So I think between the public pressure, the political questions, and the diplomatic pressure as well, that's why we're looking at this deal today and can bring you some uncharacteristically happy news.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of that, I actually think, was the Australian government, because I think they've been applying pressure for quite a while to free him. And even with all that pressure, it's sort of like splitting the difference, because they're saying you have to plead guilty, and this is like going on your record, but we'll say, hey, time served and you can go. So even with all that diplomatic pressure, it seems like it's still kind of like an FU, while also trying to accommodate to some extent. It's sort of like a classic, U.S. type move here. Yeah, you'll plead guilty, but then, we'll say you can go. You're free to go.
The last thing I'll take note of, this is something that Michael Tracy's been sounding off on Twitter, that I agree with him 100%, is, there's all this, lore about Trump and how oppositional he is to the deep state. Just remember, okay, first of all, as I said, there was a literal assassination plot that was floated under his administration. Then they're the ones.
Hillary had floated an assassination.
Oh, did she? I didn't realize that.
She said, "Why can't we just drone this guy?"
Jesus Christ.
She said that about Julian Assange.
So there's that, and then they're the ones that move forward with the prosecution, taking a much more aggressive approach than the Obama administration. Not that they were great either, let's be clear. And then towards the end of the Trump administration, remember there was all that discussion about, maybe Trump will pardon Assange, blah, blah, blah. He didn't.
Yeah, he did not at all.
He didn't.
Yeah.
There's no indication he had changed his mind on this at all. So just, keep that in mind in terms of Trump and the vibes around him and the deep state versus the reality of what he actually did in this instance.
Now, Obama was directly involved in commuting the sentence of Chelsea Manning, right? There's no indication
That's true,
that Joe Biden was involved in cutting this deal. In fact, the articles I read seem to indicate, no, this was the Department of Justice making their own decision and doing their own thing. And I believe that. In the same way that I believe that, all of these various court cases that are going after Donald Trump, I don't think that you have the Attorney General in a random state picking up the phone and making a call to Joe Biden and saying, shall we proceed, sir? Even at the federal level with the Department of Justice, I don't think they're running all of it directly through Joe Biden. And I think that cuts in this direction too, where the Department of Justice decided to take this action. Now, having said that, it is happening under Joe Biden that, he's basically being able to go. And as Michael Tracy has pointed out, like you said, it's very funny that you have these, a lot of the MAGA types just simply rewrite history and pretend Trump is standing up to the deep state, even though he served the deep state 100%. And Biden is cucked to the deep state, even though, the decision that was made here flies in the face of what the CIA wants, which is to assassinate Julian Assange.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, overall, it's a happy day that he is going to be free. I think as we speak, he's on his way or has reached Northern Mariana Islands. That hearing is supposed to happen tonight. And then according to his brother, he should be on his way home immediately. He told us that Julian's really excited he really apparently enjoys the bird song in Australia. He said he figures he'll probably be out in the bush with his kids very quickly, enjoying the beaches and, a place that he hasn't been in a very long time. So happy for him and his family.
By the way, the name of that place sounds fake as hell.
Northern
Mariana Island sounds like something in Game of Thrones, right? Right near King's Landing and Storm's End and Northern Mariana Island. Jesus, this is so made up. That's amazing.
Yeah, weird. Anyway, I'm sure there's some dark reason why why this is a U.S. territory.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go ahead and read the history. I'm just gonna assume we killed a bunch of people and said this shit is ours.
Yeah, probably. Sounds about right.
All right, guys, there you go.